at me and yelling at me.
That, sir, is not a demonstration of someone who's in fear.
This is Judge Judy. Aviram Kavan is suing his condominium neighbor, Alan Hanft, for legal fees and punitive damages for filing a false restraining order.
Judge, this is case number 138 on the calendar in the matter of Kavan versus Hanft. Parties have been sworn in. Have a seat, sir.
Mr. Kavan, you and the defendant are neighbors in an apartment building.
A condo building, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, you share a penthouse with Mr. Hanft.
He's my next-door neighbor.
The problem between the two of you arose when you were doing a renovation. Were you doing a renovation when you first moved into your apartment?
No, Your Honor. I've lived in the building for 6 years now. I started my renovations in November of 2019, so 1 year ago.
How long, Mr. Hanft, have you lived in that building?
Since 2015.
So you moved in after the plaintiff moved in?
Yes, Your Honor.
Who do you live there with?
I live by myself. I have a dog.
And Mr. Kavan, who do you live with?
I live by myself. I also have a dog.
I assume that prior to this renovation that you were doing, you and the defendant had no difficulty.
Correct, Your Honor.
At renovation, you and the plaintiff had no difficulty.
No.
And prior to the renovation and the discussion about the balcony and the awning, you had no fear of him.
No, but I do now, and I have for several months.
But just a second. Just to answer my questions.
I've always been a little bit afraid of his pit bull, and it's been roaming in the hallway more at times since this all started.
Well, before this all started, did you ever discuss with him that his dog was roaming in the halls?
I told him I'm afraid of it, and he just laughed.
You mean before?
Before and during.
Okay. At some point in the renovation, Mr. Kavan, you approached the defendant and said to him that as part of the renovation, you no longer wanted an awning covering your balcony. And you asked the defendant if you could take it down. He said no. And according to you, you took down the covering that covered your part of the balcony. Do you have pictures of that awning before you took it down?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to look at them.
Please, yeah.
When you took it down, the defendant clearly complained to the Homeowners Association, and you were reprimanded for taking down the awning without written permission.
Absolutely.
So I would like to see pictures of this awning,
Okay.
which sort of forms the genesis of this case.
From the inside view, if you see where this divider is here.
So it's a solid awning.
It's an aluminum solid awning dating back from 1963, I think, maybe.
And certainly you understand that that's a fixture part of the building, and that in order to remove that, which I assume all the balconies have that are in penthouses, there are only 2 penthouse apartments?
No, so there's 9 penthouse apartments. I was not the first to remove it. In fact, someone else has already removed it.
Point is, you took off the awning, and they didn't make you put it back up, and it's still off.
Absolutely.
That's actually not what the case is about, but it's sort of the genesis of the difficulty.
Yeah,
between you
it stemmed
and
from
Mr.
here.
And so you did take the awning down. The defendant was upset about that. According to his cross-complaint, he began to feel nervous around you because you had words with each other. And he filed a protective order against you, the basis of which was ridiculous, according to you, and forced you to spend close to $5,000 in counsel fees to defend that lawsuit, which ultimately was either dismissed or withdrawn by the defendant. So it's really not about the awning. It's really about the protective order.
Correct.
The awning's done.
The awning is done.
And Mr. Hanft says that after this awning incident, the threatening, and that's why he filed for a protective order. I don't know what happened to the protective order. He's going to tell me. But Mr. Hanft, since really the whole issue is up to you to convince me that you had a reasonable basis to file for a protective order, I'm going to start with you. The first thing is I want you to show me a copy of the complaint that you filed, and then I have questions for you. Great. Now I want you to tell me, Mr. Hanft, in what month and year did the plaintiff take down the awning over his apartment?
He took it down November 13th, I believe, 2019. And the awning issue is not the point of this, but it's not resolved either.
No, the awning issue precipitated the difficulty between the two of you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Which formed the basis for your application for a protective order.
Yes.
Which forms the basis of his claim that you filed a false protective order.
It was totally not false,
So what
Your
I
Honor.
want you... So, just a second. That's why we're here, sir. You have to understand two things. Conduct by someone against whom you filed a protective order has to be such that a reasonably prudent person would understand that this was threatening behavior. If you come to a circumstance and you feel threatened, but there is no overt demonstration of threatening behavior, that a court considers when they consider whether the filing of a protective order is real or not. So now we're going to go back to November 13th, 2019, which is the incident that precipitated this bad feeling, and tell me the first incident that you allege, and you don't allege any of these things. You don't allege anywhere that he assaulted you.
Physically,
correct?
no.
So protective order covers conduct that is assaultive, menacing, threatening, or harassing. That's the criteria usually for protective orders.
I would say it was more harassing.
Fine. And so if you characterize, so didn't assault you, didn't menace you, didn't threaten you.
I think he said things that I felt threatened by him and behaved in a way that I felt threatened.
Well, no. Well, how you felt is not relevant. If the behavior itself did not rise to the level of what a reasonable person under the circumstance would find threatening behavior. So
he would yell at me and curse at me in my private.
No.
It actually started in August when he was approaching me. He wanted me to say that I wanted to take down the roof. And I started off just explaining to him again and again that I preferred to have the roof, the sun protection, and the rain protection. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. So he started, badgering me, telling me it has to come down.
No. Listen, Mr. Haft. You're looking over to the side. What I want you to do is look at me. Badgering is a conclusory term. I want you to tell me what he did. The fact that you found it badgering is not particularly relevant. So he kept asking you to put your hand down. Give me a specific date where he said or did an act that was threatening.
May 9th, he said that he had enough of me. He's tired of taking it easy on me. He called me this, he called me that. He said it in a very hostile way. I found it frightening. I didn't want to pass him to go home. Then when I started to take my phone out of my pocket because it was so horrible and this frightening and upsetting and just a terrible experience, this is so bad I want to try to record it because it's awful. And then he amazingly immediately just stopped. Then I go, well, why aren't you cursing at me anymore? Why did you stop cursing at me now that I have my phone out? And it was incredible. He goes, I never cursed. I go, you were just cursing at me like 9 seconds ago. He goes, tell me what I said, like an idiot and a child. And this was the first time I said this to him. And after months and months of being fearful of him, I said, look, I can't take this anymore in my own home. If you don't stop harassing me and abusing me, you're going to have to explain this to the police or a judge or somebody because I can't take it. And he goes, shut up, get your judge, get your police. And then he left. And I also want to say one thing. He'd been confronting me and following me around and jumping out of his apartment, jumping in the elevator. I'd be walking my dog in front of the building, and he would just be standing like this, like just staring daggers at me. I wouldn't even want to return home. I wouldn't want to even leave my apartment. And in this whole time, Your Honor, that this was going on, I was proud of myself. I either spoke to him politely, or if I saw him coming after it got bad, I would walk in the other way. I never showed any emotion. This was the only time that I ever showed any emotion. I showed it to my friends when I would tell them what's been happening to me, but the only emotion that I ever expressed in front of him about this horrible stuff that he was doing was that time, because I just couldn't take it anymore because he was cursing at me and yelling at me, and it was just so awful and so horrible. In my own home, I didn't want to walk out of my door for the longest time already. If I see his car parked in the building, I feel sick to my stomach because he's going to confront me. And that should not be how it is in somebody's home, Your Honor, is what I believe.
All right, Mr. Haft, now I want you to just stifle it for a moment. And what I find interesting about what you told me is if he stopped doing what he was doing, cursing you and calling you names, when you went to take out your phone, and instead of going into your apartment, you said to him, why did you stop cursing at me? Why don't you say the same words that you were saying before when I have my phone out.
That was the first time I ever had an emotional response.
Just a second. I'm just letting you know. That, sir, is not a demonstration of someone who's in fear.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If I was afraid of somebody, I wouldn't say to them, come on, talk into the phone like you were talking before, because I would have darted into my apartment.
I couldn't get by him.
No, that's not true. You're making that up.
Aviram Kavan says condominium neighbor Alan Hanft filed a false restraining order after they had a disagreement over a shared awning. Alan is countersuing for legal fees, harassment, and infliction of emotional distress.
Okay, if I was afraid...
Anything to him like that.
It doesn't matter. You're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you. If I was afraid of somebody because they were yelling and cursing at me and took out my phone and the person stopped and backed off, I wouldn't say to them, come on, talk into the phone like you were talking before, because I would have darted into my apartment if I was afraid.
I couldn't get by him.
If I was afraid. No, that's not true. You're making that up.
No, I'm not.
There had to be something before May 9th. So I want you to show me the emails that you sent to the Homeowners Association about the plaintiff.
Your Honor, while he's looking for that, can I just mention that the incident that he's just mentioned was all caught on CCTV. I actually had it subpoenaed.
Do you have it?
It should be available on the monitor.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see it.
There is no
I'd like
audio.
to see
That
it.
was the only time
Right
in
now
like
I'm reading.
12 months that I
Just
spoke
a second.
back to him.
Right. I'm reading something. So this was January of 2020. Preventing me from leaving the service. Okay. Now, was this the first time, Mr. Haft, you had complained about the plaintiff's dog?
No. Here's when, October 23rd, 2019.
Okay, I'd like to see it. Okay, and that was October of 2019. You contacted by the board, Mr. Kavan?
I've had numerous issues with the board. I used to actually be on the board for 2 years. I was voted on for 2 years. So one of the members of the HOA I had some issues with, mainly...
She called the police on him. She was afraid.
I want to tell you something. If you do that again, sir, I'm going to dismiss your counterclaim. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because it's a demonstration of behavior that is odd, Mr. Haft. Now, each time a letter was sent leading up to May 9th of this year or May 8th of this year, each time a letter was sent, were you contacted by the board?
No.
Did you ever receive any communication from the board?
I have, not with regard to my neighbor, just mainly the awning.
Were you fined for removing the awning?
Yes, it's actually still ongoing. It's over $10,000.
Okay, this is how I'm going to summarize all of the underlying action that I have to know before I get to my final questioning of you, Mr. Haft. Prior to you deciding to ask for forgiveness rather than permission, that you clearly had to know you needed as a former board member, Mr. Kavan, to remove the awning. You removed it anyway, and that clearly created bad feeling. And there is no question in my mind that based upon what the defendant says, himself became a nudnik to the board. Clearly, you were annoyed with him. He was certainly annoyed that you had removed this top balcony, and a situation developed that he felt that the recourse that he had was to file a protective order against you. I don't know what he was asking for. It's not particularly relevant because the protective order was ultimately dismissed. So now I have several questions for you, Mr. Haft. Do you still live in the building or have you moved? That's either I still live there or I moved. That's either I still live there or I moved.
I still live there.
And I want you to tell me, what date did you file for the protective order? Just give me the month, day, and year.
June 23rd of this year, Your Honor.
When was the case either tried or dismissed?
It was going to be tried on August 15th, but he asked for a continuance.
I don't know whether you're purposely trying, if you're purposely trying to get on my nerves.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You do not deny the statement that the plaintiff has not lived in the building since the gut renovation started.
I don't know where he's lived.
Okay, fully believe.
Judge Judy. Aviram Kavan says condo neighbor Alan Hanft filed a false restraining order after they had a disagreement over a shared awning.
Okay, I want to know on what date the case was either tried or dismissed.
September 25th.
Did you withdraw the protective order on September 25th or
Yes.
24th? Now I would like to see the video of the May 8th incident.
Your Honor, that door is the freight elevator door. A complete teardown, so it's been completely uninhabitable. So anytime I've been there, it's really...
So you have not been in the building since your renovation started?
Well, I would obviously come to check up on the workers.
But you haven't lived there?
No, I've barely been there.
Do you have a paid invoice from your attorney?
I do.
I'd like to see it. You do not deny the statement, Mr. Hanft, that the plaintiff has not lived in the building since the gut renovation started.
I don't know where he's lived.
Okay, fully below me. 4875. Mr. Hanft, your counterclaim is dismissed for harassment. I am awarding the plaintiff the counsel fees that he's requested, $4,875.
There was one extra bill.
From whom?
I had to retrieve footage. I had to get a subpoena for the footage, and the building charged me.
Just a second. All right. Well, that brings your claim to over $5,000. That's the maximum that I can award you, sir.
Okay.
There are several things, Mr. Hanft. When you have a neighbor that you're unhappy with, there are several things that you do. One of the things that you don't do when they are no longer physically your neighbor is you don't file for a protective order, and you withdraw it when it was ready to go to trial. And some arbitrator like me could have looked at that footage and said, who looks like the person who is more aggressive? In that footage of May 8th, the only aggressive conduct and body language that I saw was yours.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by... Are you the victim of an assault? Go to judgejudy.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.
Okay, he's not living there anymore. He should have not taken the steps that he did in renovating his apartment without HOA approval. That is clear. I do not condone that. And there are consequences to that. And he hasn't lived in his place.
He was there a lot,
Consequences,
though.
I'm sure that
I
there will be.
see him all the time.
Just a second. I'm not talking to you anymore. Now I'm issuing a judgment. And the judgment that I'm issuing is that you're going to pay his counsel fees. If he had counsel fees of almost $5,000, sir, you had no business on the eve of trial, after forcing him to pay $5,000, you withdrew the case. I don't see why you withdraw the case. Maybe your attorney had the footage. Anyway, your counterclaim is dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This case is concluded. Parties are excused.
And on the next Judge Judy...
Either you lied to me today or you lied to the Better Business Bureau.
That was a mistake I made.
It's always a mistake when you get caught.
Your Honor, may I say...
Nothing.
Okay.
Next Judge Judy.
We're opening my door,
Alan has been a complete nightmare of a neighbor.
and I'm only human. I showed some emotion on that one time in the entire year.
He enjoys playing the victim. He's neurotic.
I'd like him to stay away from me and leave me alone.
I would like to go separate ways, and hopefully we'll be happy again at some point.
Divorced parents relive their breakup.
Which, if any, of the children came with you?
The two youngest ones.
No, all the children stay with me. There's a truth-telling problem.
So living together again was a mistake.
She did move back into the house.
Yes, ma'am. It was a tumultuous relationship.
You have 4 children, and you have 2 young ones. They're the only victims of your irresponsible behavior and hers.
This is Judge Judy. Thomas Mercer is suing his ex-wife, Jennifer Mercer, for an unpaid loan to buy a car.
Judges, case number 79 on the calendar in the matter of Mercer versus Mercer. Parties have been sworn in.
Mr. Mercer, the defendant is your former wife, and you have children together. How many?
4.
How old are they?
23, 19, 11, and 8, Your Honor.
You were married in what year, sir?
We were married in 1999.
And divorced in what year?
Divorced in 2016.
You separated in what year? I didn't hear that.
Late 2012.
And according to you, divorced in 2016.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember in what month you divorced in 2016?
I don't.
Do you remember, Ms. Mercer?
What
month in 2016?
I do not, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, you do remember in what year in 2017 that you reconciled. What month was that?
I believe I wrote it down here. I believe the month of May is when we did.
Okay, Ms. Mercer, were your 11 and 8-year-old children in school when you reconciled?
Yes.
Were they actually attending school, so it was in the winter, spring, as opposed to the summer?
I believe the summer, yes.
When you say you reconciled, in the divorce, sir, listen to me, that's not your story, that's her story. In the divorce, who got the house?
Me, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And where did you move, Mrs. Mercer?
I moved into an apartment.
Which, if any, of the children came with you?
I took the 2 youngest ones. The 2 oldest wanted to stay.
No. All the children stay with me.
Just a second. Don't speak unless I'm asking you a question.
Sorry, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I took the youngest ones. They were only 1 and 3 at the time.
2016, 15, and 18, they stayed with their father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did the judgment of divorce provide for custody, Ms. Mercer?
Yes.
Who had physical custody of the children?
Thomas was awarded physical custody.
Of all 4 children?
Yes.
Was that on consent, or was there a hearing?
We had a
trial.
We had a 3.5-year trial, roughly.
You mean during this 2012 to 2016 separation, there was a trial?
There was.
That took a long time?
Yes.
And during that time, where were the 2 youngest children? With you or with their father?
We were doing like a temporary order where the judge had time with me and then time with Thomas, with the kids. So it was a temporary order until it was final.
That took too long for whatever reason.
Yes, it did.
I cannot imagine what reason a trial involving young children takes 3 years. Ridiculous. All right. Now, at some point, you moved back into the house. That was in the summer of 2017?
Yes.
How long did you stay there?
A little over a year.
Until when?
Until I was told I couldn't return.
What month? What month?
It was in May.
So you were there for about a year?
Yes.
That in 2017 or 18, your former wife needed a car. You loaned her money for a car in which you took out a personal loan.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in what month and year did you do that?
The loan was taken out in 2019. Your Honor, can I back up a little bit before that?
Just a second. Is what you're telling me, you're going to have to show me the loan papers. Do you have the loan papers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to look at them and tell me what month and year you took out the loan. You say in June 2019, I loaned her $3,500 so she could repair her car. Within 2 months, it wasn't working, and she needed another $9,000.
Yes, ma'am.
It's more money than I
5-1.
had. So let me see it. Put it up on the evidence screen. The first loan that you say was June 2019. So in May 2019, which according to your former wife is the year after she moved out, because she did move back into the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in 2017 to 2018.
No, Your Honor, she lived in the house until recently.
Until recently?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
want to make certain. So she moved out recently in 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And during that time, she lived together with you and the 4 children.
Yes, ma'am. It was off and on again, Your Honor. She came to me in 2017 saying she needed somewhere to stay. So we weren't necessarily reconciling at that time. She needed somewhere to stay.
Mr. Mercer, if you think, Mr. Mercer, that I think that your former wife came to live with you and the 4 children, and the 2 of you didn't resume cohabitating. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yes, living together.
This
but
is a
yeah,
PG show. Yes. Yes.
Initially,
if
we
you
were.
think that I think.
We did, but not initially. She needed somewhere to stay. She was in a bad relationship, Your Honor, and she needed to leave that house. So she came and lived with me.
That's all right. At some point, it transitioned. Yeah, at some point, it transitioned.
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, it transitioned into back living as a family.
Yes, ma'am.
With your 4 children.
Yes, ma'am. It was on and off
She
again.
lived there until Mr. Mercer. And, sir, at some point, you say in 2020, she moved out. She says it was 2019. You got to get your story straight, folks.
That's what
Do you understand?
It's off and on, Your Honor.
You got to get your story straight. Yeah, I understand that.
That was the problem.
And at one point, when it was on, you took out a loan. Loan is because you made some repairs to the house with some of that money. I don't really care whether you made repairs to the house or whether she bought a car. You were living together as a family with your 4 children.
Your Honor, no, it wasn't. It was a tumultuous relationship, and I don't even. The whole premise of what she said, Your Honor, was that she never leave the house with the children. The children always stayed with me. That's part of the problem. There's a truth-telling problem. So we were off and on again quite frequently. Between that time of being there and back.
Listen, Mr. Mercer, the only thing that I'm concerned about is with your on-again, off-again tumultuous relationship with your wife, you have 4 children and you have 2 young ones. They're the only victims of your irresponsible behavior and hers.
I agree, Your Honor.
They're the only yo-yos. Sometimes they have a mother in the house. Sometimes they don't have a mother in the house. Judge did a long hearing. You got custody of the 4 children. She took the 2 little ones, she says, to live with her early on. Then she came back, and at some point you bought a car while she was living there. And Mr. Mercer. Yeah, Mr. Mercer.
She had a car.
You're not getting any money from her. You're not getting any money from her.
I'm trying to tell you, initially she had a car that was having problems. I had loaned her $3,500 for that car to be repaired first. And then from there, she got another car. And I tried to convince her to buy this car, and she needed to do it. It had a rebuilt title, Your Honor. So she couldn't take a traditional loan through a bank, and she had bad credit. So I took that loan. And she was going to take that car and take it to get it refinanced once it was in her possession. This is what it was supposed to be easier for her to do that. And then it would be in her name, her car, on her loan. So it was supposed to be a short thing, Your Honor, where it had anything to do with me. Mm-hmm. So then she started paying on it. She paid on it over a year. She has right here, Your Honor, she paid out of her own account for over a year. And then once
Did she pay you any rent? Did you, just a second, stop talking a second. Did she pay you any rent when she was living there?
No, she was still paying child support, Your Honor. That's what I'm saying. This was off and on. It wasn't a happy family. There was a lot of issues. And I had the children all throughout, Your Honor.
Don't give your ex-wife any more money. She must have some serious problems. But that's not something that courts get involved with, sir.
Well, it shouldn't be my responsibility, Your Honor.
Yeah,
because
it is your responsibility. You took out the loan.
And
you took out the loan. You also were the one who had sex with her in your house with your 4 children, like you were all living together. This is not something that courts deal with. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
All this time.
Thank you. Case is over.
This case is completed. Parties are excused.
No, I think it's ridiculous.
I'm very thankful with the results that Judge Judy was able to.
So now, once again, I'm beating it.
It's a long, long battle I dealt with for many, many years.
Yeah, I was silly. I shouldn't have let her back in. But once again, I guess I'll pay for that.
He's upset that the relationship ended.
No more loans.
Probably never get married again.
All parties in the matter of Sarkisian versus Zamora. Step to the podium, please.
Artin Sarkisian is suing his former tenant, Adela Zamora, for unpaid rent and attorney fees.
Mr. Sarkisian, this is your tenant, or was your tenant. You purchased a building, according to your complaint, in 2017. It was a 4-unit building, and the defendant had been a tenant there when you purchased the building. Subsequent to your purchasing the building, you created new leases with your tenants, including the defendant. So far, am I accurate?
That is accurate.
Do you have a copy of the lease that you created with Ms. Zamora?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's page 1.
Okay. And who are listed as occupants of that apartment?
The occupants are David, Theodore, Andrew, Angelica, Isaiah, and Jaden.
Okay. And that's the lease that you created. And at least one of those people who were listed as people, is one of those people the brother that you have an issue with now?
Correct.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I
have a newborn baby, and the house is horrible.
Listen to me. If you don't like something, you move.
Right,
so
that's
you
why I
decided
did.
to move, but you ate the steak. You lived there for 9 days.
Artin Sarkissian says former tenant Adela Zamora moved out owing for rent. Adela is countersuing for poor living conditions and harassment.
Okay, so now this is what the case is about. Several years later, in October or perhaps before October, when you were on a month-to-month basis with the defendant, she gave you notice that she was going to be moving out on October the 9th. She paid her September's rent. She moved out on October 9th. Part of your lawsuit is for the 9 days that she lived there that she did not pay rent, which my rudimentary math translates into $558 if you're successful. Ms. Zamora, did you, in fact, live in the apartment for 9 days in October?
I did, yes.
Did you pay him for the 9 days in October?
I did.
When it was due, it was beginning October 1st, so it may have been your last day to pay, October 10th.
Yes.
So you owe him the $558
I believe I don't
for the
owe
9
him
days
it
that you...
because of the situation that the house is in. I have a newborn baby, and the house is horrible. I don't...
Listen to me.
Okay.
Listen to me. If you don't like something, you move.
Right,
so
that's
you
why I
decided
did.
to move, but you ate the steak. You lived there for 9 days.
Yes, because I
Just
believed
like
he
you
would
lived
fix
there in
the
the month of
situation.
Listen, you lived there for years. You lived
Yes.
there in 17, 18, 19,
Right.
20. You owe him $558 for the 9 days you stayed there. This is the second part of your lawsuit, which is going to be dismissed. I'm telling you now, because you're not suing her for $558. You're suing her for $5,000 because you say she allowed her brother, who I assume is that person sitting next to you.
Yes.
Is that right, Ms. Zamora?
Yes.
She allowed him into the apartment, and he subsequently became a squatter. And he hasn't paid you rent. You had to get a lawyer involved to try to get him out. You couldn't get him out now. He's still living there, I assume. Is that right?
Yes, he is.
He's still living there. You can't get him out because of the COVID moratorium. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And she let him move in. No, you let him move in, sir,
Well,
because
yeah.
you put him on your lease.
But yes, Your Honor, I have text messages proving that they did move out in April of this year, and then Ms. Zamora had kicked them out because
That was my other brother, actually.
they wouldn't pay
Just-
rent.
Don't interrupt him.
Okay.
Because they wouldn't pay rent.
It
so
doesn't matter to me. He was on the original lease.
Correct.
You can't sue her. If you
But
can't
she
sue
is the
him, you
signee
can't
of,
sue her.
but she's the
there.
signee of the lease. She's the one responsible. In the lease, it clearly states when you
No,
terminate
the lease, just
Go ahead.
she terminated the lease for her.
Correct.
She owes you $558. You think that you have a cause of action against her brother? Use it.
Well, in the
Use it against her brother. She's not paying you anything other than the $558
But on
that
the
she
lease,
owes you for 9 days.
On the lease, under Section 19, upon vacating, you're supposed to take all persons and personal property with you.
Carefully listen to me. She's paying you $558. They were month to month after the 2017. Was that renewed every year?
No, it was not.
In writing?
It was just continued as month.
$558. That's your judgment. Now, just for my own information, Ms. Zamora.
So right now he gets
That brother.
He gets food stamps. So CalFresh.
And how does he get money for clothes?
He was working, but since the pandemic, they cut his hours at work. So he was working.
Who was he working? Just a second. Who was he working for, Ms. Zamora?
He was working for Wingstop as a customer service representative.
For who?
Wingstop, fast food restaurant.
Was he working in the store?
He was working in the store.
From an office?
In the store.
And when you say they cut his hours, from what to what?
So he was getting 40 hours. They cut him maybe to like 20 to 25 a week.
And he's paid by check?
He's paid by check, yes. Bi-weekly.
Does he have any other dependents?
He does. He has his son and his wife.
Where is his wife?
His wife is at the residence that we're here about.
And what does his wife do for a living?
She does not work.
Why?
Right now, because she has to take care of a 3-year-old kid and she's pregnant.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is a terrible, terrible time. And the government really wanted to protect people who had lost their jobs. But if you're working, you would at least make some effort to pay something towards your rent.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Artin Sarkissian says former tenant Adela is countersuing for poor living conditions and harassment.
All right, Mr. Sarkissian.
Yes.
Looks to me you're going to have to wait until there's a vaccine or until they lift that moratorium.
Correct.
You now know who he works for, and you know that he gets paid by check bi-weekly. Do you understand?
Well, according to them, he does not work. So now she's saying he does work.
He's been there for a year and a half, and we can get proof of that.
Well, that's a year and a half. That's not years. He works there. She says he works there.
Okay. So I will file a lawsuit against him next.
File a lawsuit against him. I mean, the moratorium against eviction for non-payment of rent is really for people who lost their jobs during the pandemic or who were suffering financially during the pandemic. And it's going to have to be up to your brother to, at some point, address why he was working, and he's still working, and he's living his life. He has a wife. He has a child. He thought he had sufficient financial resources to make another child, but he doesn't pay his rent. You think that that's fair?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by Scam. Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Now, it's going to have to be up to your brother. He has a wife. He has a child. He thought he had sufficient financial resources to make another child, but he doesn't pay his rent. You think that that's fair?
I don't think that
You think that that's fair?
No.
It's not fair. It's not fair. This is a terrible, terrible time. And the government really wanted to protect people who had lost their jobs from having a whole swath of the country homeless.
Right.
But if you're working, you at least make, even if they reduce your hours, you at least make some effort to pay something towards your rent and say, listen, I'm going to give you more as soon as my hours are back up. But right now they cut my hours to whatever it is, so I'm going to pay you half the rent. I'm going to pay you a quarter of the rent. But to say, I mean, is your brother an unintelligent man?
He's not. They have like a lot of finances like that.
Just a second. So he moved in, he lives there with his wife, a 3-year-old, and bringing another baby into that apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
And your counterclaim is that the apartment was in terrible condition.
It's in very terrible condition.
And you want to be compensated for that. Plaintiff, thank you very much. We're done.
This case is concluded. Parties are excused.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We got into a disagreement and an argument over my boyfriend, the fact that they didn't like him and they didn't want him over anymore.
Did he ever do in your apartment anything unlawful?
Judge Judy.
Looks like I'll be having to go after the brother next.
The police got involved because he was saying that they were trespassing, which was very incorrect.
So I went there with my contractor to change the locks, and they wouldn't get out. So when the police came, they said this is an eviction case.
He was not trespassing. He was on the lease since 2017.
She would call me, and then 5 minutes later call the health department. I never wanted her kicked out.
The health department, okay, there was molding in the house, no heating in the house. There was infestation of rodents.
It's time to go back to court.
I'm just done.
You bought a 22-year-old car and you drove it, and then the transmission went kaflooey.
A frustrated buyer is geared up for a fight.
I believe that it was a dependable car, which is exactly what was written.
What I'm telling you is you took a car as is.
This is a fraudulent sale.
Do you understand your problem?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
This is Judge Judy. Brian Epner is suing Janine Bender and her husband Tom Uhrig for a refund for a '98 Jeep Wrangler they sold to him.
Judge, this is case number 145 on the calendar in the matter of Epner versus Bender Uhrig. Parties have been sworn in. Have a seat, sir.
Mr. Epner, I'm going to go through what I get from your complaint, and I want you to tell me if I've said anything that is incorrect, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you were in the market for a second vehicle.
Correct.
What was your first vehicle?
2018 Nissan Rogue.
And who else drove that car?
That vehicle is driven by my wife.
Do you have children?
I have 2 beautiful children, 13 and 9.
And she drives the car primarily for herself and with the kids?
Yes.
Was that also your family's primary vehicle?
That is my family's primary vehicle, yes.
How long has it been your family's primary vehicle?
Since 2018, 2017.
And what kind of a car did you have before that?
Before that, I had a minivan and a Nissan Sentra. I also had a couple of Jeeps prior to that.
Okay, immediately prior.
Immediately prior, it
was the one your wife drove with the children.
I still have that vehicle, yes.
Yes, you were looking for a second car, and prior to that, you drove a van.
A minivan, yes.
That was the family car.
Yes, it was a Chrysler Town and Country.
Okay, and both of those cars were automatic transmission.
Correct.
Okay, now you looked for a second car, and what you found was a 22-year-old Jeep that was owned by the 2 defendants.
Correct.
You went to their house and you looked at the car and you test drove it.
Correct. I came with a friend of mine, a coworker. Yes.
And you looked at the car, brought a friend, test drove it. Where did you test drive it?
Around the immediate area, which I had promised the...
For how long?
5 minutes, roughly.
How long did it take you to get from your home to the defendant's home?
I came from work. It was the middle of the day, so it took approximately 25 minutes.
So it took you 25 minutes also to get back
Correct.
With the car after you purchased it?
Correct, to my office, yes.
And you brought the Jeep back to your office?
Correct.
What's the distance between your office and your home?
I would say it's about a 15, 20-minute drive, 25 minutes in traffic.
Now, what day of the week did you pick up the car from them?
I picked it up on a Thursday. It was October 1st. Did you drive the Jeep? No, I did not.
What car did you drive?
I carpooled with my boss, which I do most of the time.
So on the 2nd of October, you carpooled with your boss, that you remember?
Yes.
Whose name is?
Stephen.
And if I were to call Stephen, he would check his calendar and see on Friday, October 2nd, you carpooled with him.
He probably wouldn't check his calendar. We do that every day.
Then what did you need a second car for?
For the occasions once in a blue moon where we don't carpool, and also for some errands around the neighborhood for family errands.
So you carpooled with your boss, and then there was a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yes.
At some point, you're going to tell me which day, you went to put gas in the car. On what day was that?
So what happened was
No. On what day did you go to put gas in the car?
I believe it was the Saturday. So that would be the 3rd, October 3rd.
And when you went to put gas in the car, you had some difficulty, according to your complaint. And I filled the tank with gas, and then the Jeep wouldn't move. That's what you said, when you filled the Jeep up with gas.
It was not
a couple of days later, you said in your complaint that you swore to, a couple of days later, I filled the tank with gas.
But I signed it. I filled the tank with gas. I drove it to my home.
You didn't say that, sir. I'm just telling you. I have your complaint that I can show you that you signed today, and it says a couple of days later, I filled the tank with gas. Then the Jeep wouldn't move.
Yes, there was.
I ended up pushing it to a spot near my house. I'm just reading you what you wrote.
It's nuanced.
And swore to.
Correct. Yes, I swore to it. It is correct. The nuance is that there was a 5-minute period between putting in gas and going 4 blocks to my apartment complex.
Okay, so after you put in gas, the car actually drove.
It drove, yes.
It drove. We're going to get there eventually, Mr. Repner, because what you're alleging is that they sold you a car, which they couldn't do in your state, because the car, after you had it examined by a mechanic when it stopped running, had transmission problems.
Well,
that's what you wrote here.
The car doesn't run, and the mechanic who I've brought here
Just
with
a
me
second.
Today, yes.
I don't care what the mechanic says.
Okay.
You say it has transmission problems. Is your mechanic going to say anything different?
No, he is not.
Fine. It had transmission problems.
Correct.
And from that, you conclude that the car, because it had a new smog test, unless you fix the transmission, and therefore the sale is illegal. That's what your complaint says.
Correct.
However, Mr. Repner, this is your problem. You bought a 22-year-old car that, according to the defendants, and I have no reason to doubt them, and neither do you purchased the car on the 1st of October. In June, it had passed a smog test.
Well, that was not presented to me, and that was not, I don't know how it did
Well,
that.
then, just a second.
Okay.
Do you have proof that your car passed a smog test in June? That's what you say.
We couldn't find the receipt for that. We thought it was in the glove compartment of the Jeep.
Okay. Did you register the car?
Yes. Yes.
What was the last day the car was registered?
June 2020.
The car had to be smogged in order...
Right.
So when you bought the car, it had been registered.
According to the
you
ad,
bought a registered car.
According to the ad, it says the tags, and according to the conversation,
Mr. Repner, the car was registered. These two people did not sell you an unregistered car, so the car was registered.
Okay.
They said it was in June. And since they, in their state where you live, could not register a car unless it was smogged, they had the car smogged. If you follow what you just said to me, you test drove the car, you drove it for at least an hour. You drove it 25 minutes from their house to your office to your home. You may have done an errand or two in between, but you drove it for at least an hour because you also took it on a test drive. And the car was running.
The car was
running?
running?
The car ran.
The car was
shifting.
running.
And it had been smogged.
I don't know that.
And you bought it, well, I do, because you bought a registered car.
I don't
and if
have...
you didn't, and you brought a friend with you to look at the car, there is no way this car wasn't registered. You can go outside and you can check the VIN number and see when the last time that car was registered. There's no question that they had this car registered and smogged. When did you purchase this
Your
car?
Honor, if I can...
Mr. Bender? Yeah, you can do whatever you like. You bought a 22-year-old car and you drove it. And then the transmission went kaflooey. That's what happened. You drove it.
The issue, Your Honor, if you allow me for a second, I just want to mention that there's no way for me to prove that it was smogged, that it had a smog certificate. If you allow me to present from the California DMV on their website, I brought it today to show you.
No, just show me from the VIN number of your car, sir.
The VIN number of my vehicle, which is on the title, which I have.
Yeah, the VIN number.
I will replace.
Right.
Okay, the VIN number on the vehicle is 1J4179.
Good. You bought a 22-year-old car that was run to the defendants again, because I wanted to ask you this question. When did you purchase this car, this Jeep? In what year, if you remember?
I think it was 2008.
So you purchased a car when it was 10 years old?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. And you had the car exclusively, the two of you, from 2008 until the time you sold it to him?
Exactly.
Okay. With whom was the car insured?
Insure Express, which was through Western General.
Was this the only car you had?
No.
How many cars do you have?
2.
Were both cars insured by Western General?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you use both cars?
Yes.
Every day.
Can you tell me on what date you canceled the insurance on the 1998 Jeep?
It was after the sale. It was a couple weeks after Brian had taken it.
Do you understand your problem?
No, I do not, Your Honor. I understand that I bought a vehicle, and if you allow me to just state, I have no proof it was registered.
You have 30 seconds.
Okay, I have no proof it's registered. Okay. I don't have a smog certificate. According to the California DMV, if I sell my car, do I have to get it inspected first? This is from the frequently asked questions on the California DMV website. Yes, if you are selling your car, you need to give the new owner a valid smog certification when you sell the car. I don't have a valid smog certification. I can't get one because the car does not run. This is a fraudulent sale.
You drove it?
Because I brought it to my mechanic. If you allow me to bring up my mechanic, who would state that
What I'm telling you is, you bought a 22-year-old car from people that you cannot disprove, unless you want me to waste my time calling their insurance company, which I guarantee you, actually, you have the telephone number of your insurance carrier on your other car. It's the same carrier as your other car, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Having insurance, I have insurance on the vehicle also. Doesn't mean it runs, smogged, registered. They don't ask for anything.
Sir, you don't insure a car and pay for insurance on a car unless it's registered, and it can't be registered unless it's been smogged in your state.
Not, Your Honor,
do you understand?
With all due respect, I have the car. I have insurance on the vehicle. The day I bought the car.
No, you don't, sir. You only have to have insurance on a car if you're driving it. If you can't drive it because it's not registered and it's not insured because it hasn't passed smog, you don't carry or pay for insurance on it.
I did.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Mr. DeFranco called the police and said that you were waving a gun at him. By the time you got out of jail, all of your stuff was over at your grandmother's house.
No, Your Honor.
Where was your
Brian Epner says Janine Bender and husband Tom Urig sold him a Jeep with transmission problems. He also claims it couldn't pass a smog test.
You bought a 22-year-old car.
Because I believe that it was a dependable car, which is exactly what was written on the ad, Your Honor.
Very good. Your case is dismissed. You're going to talk. What I'm telling you is you took a car, as is. I believe, based on the testimony, that these two people had the car registered and insured, which means that they had it smogged. You can't get it smogged because the transmission went, and you drove the car for at least an hour. At least, probably more.
Your Honor, that's...
We're done. We're done. We're finished. This isn't a back and forth. I've explained it to you. You don't want to accept it.
I acknowledge that I bought a 22-year-old car,
That's your problem. That's correct. We're done.
This case is concluded. Parties are excused.
I don't know what happened once it left our house because we drove it every day.
This is a fraudulent transaction with fraudulent people.
It was fine.
Owned it for 12 years and never had a problem.
Yeah.
Who are dishonest, and I can't say anything about that.
And I know exactly what happened. He put it in four-wheel drive to check it out.
No, it drove, and as I continued driving, I mean...
And he didn't back up. You got to take back.
A little sticky, and then it stopped.
And that's how he ruined the transmission.
Buyer beware. Don't trust people just because they seem like a nice, lovely couple.
Yeah, stand by the car. It's a sad situation, actually.
All parties in the matter of Baker versus DeFranco. Step forward.
Jason Baker is suing his former landlord, Justin DeFranco, for an illegal lockout and stolen belongings.
All right, Mr. Baker, you were living rent-free in the defendant's house. And you have two claims, that he locked you out of the house where you were living rent-free, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the time that he locked you out of the house, Mr. Baker, you had, according to you, already packed half of a U-Haul because you were moving out. Yes, that's what you wrote.
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. And then you hadn't finished moving your things. You went out for a little while. And while you were out, it is your claim that Mr. DeFranco called the police and said that you were waving a gun at him,
yes,
which was not true. And he did that because he knew you had an outstanding warrant for your arrest. So when the police pulled you over, they arrested you on an outstanding warrant. By the time you got out of jail, all of your stuff was over at your grandmother's house.
No, Your Honor. I was still MIA at that point. I had to call officers to the home because he had instructed his friends who were inside the home to hold possession of my two service animals.
All right, let me just read you what you wrote.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll refresh your recollection before I throw you out of here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, that was pretty stupid of you.
It was.
Well, that was pretty dumb.
100%.
You know him for a very long time.
Yes.
And you know that he has some serious issues.
Yes.
I don't know whether you have some serious issues.
I think I do.
But I know that he has some serious issues.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Baker claims former landlord Justin DeFranco had him arrested, stole his belongings, and locked him out of the house. Justin is countersuing for a totaled car, vandalism, and U-Haul charges.
12 hours later, I was released and returned home. The U-Haul was gone, and I was locked out of the house. I eventually found the boxes of my things were dropped off at my grandmother's house. But the boxes had all been opened and repacked. Thousands of dollars of my property, including my Rolex, my laptop, and my expensive shoe collection, were gone. Justin also refused to...
I believe, Your Honor, that I might have miswrote some things due to the fact that I have been under some serious health conditions. I just got out of the hospital after a week's stay. I do have a heart condition. I'm not able to recollect certain things due to the fact that I do black out.
Well, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, Mr. Baker. I don't like to deal with somebody who is not in tip-top shape. So I'm going to send you back to where you came from, and I'm dismissing your case without prejudice, so you can go and get yourself better, and then you can cogently present your case if you're not feeling well. Do you understand?
I feel fine to continue today if we can.
Well, then, I'm going to ask you, you just signed today this sworn complaint that I read to you. There was a whole different scenario than what you just gave me, and you said you did that because you didn't feel well.
It wasn't supposed to state boxes. There was supposed to be some...
Mr. Baker, you don't have
wording
a case.
adjustment?
Mr. Baker, you don't have a case against him. You paid no rent. I don't know whether you liked each other, whether we lived each other like an old married couple, but I decided it was time to leave because we were arguing all the time. You left. Did you call the police and say that he was waving a gun at you?
I never called the police during this whole incident. Not
What
once.
proof do you have that he called the police, Mr. Baker?
I have no proof other than what the officer asked me.
Just no proof that he called the police?
No, I have no proof.
Okay, very good. And you had no lease with him, and you were moving out of the house with a U-Haul, so we didn't illegally lock you out.
I actually have proof that Mr. Franco wrote a letter stating that I would be able to reside in the home rent-free upon the voucher approval from housing that I was waiting for.
Mr. Baker, you were moving out. That's what you said in your complaint. On December 5th, 2018, the rented U-Haul was partially packed. You packed it.
From the
But I still had belongings. You were moving out.
No, the U-Haul was packed from a storage facility. I had packed nothing from the home.
What was the U-Haul doing in front of the house?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by... Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.
What was the U-Haul doing in front of the house?
Mr. DeFranco had rented the U-Haul.
For what?
Because I had to move from my storage facility.
Okay, goodbye. We're done. You and I are done. Now, since you feel well enough, we're going to deal with his counterclaim, which is for what nonsense, Mr. DeFranco?
I helped Mr. Baker out with getting him a car.
Well, that was pretty stupid of you.
It was.
Well, that was pretty dumb. You know that he has some serious issues.
Yes.
I don't know whether you have some serious issues.
I think I do.
But I know that he has some serious issues. So why you would co-sign for a loan on a car for him, I have no idea.
Me neither.
And how old are you?
I don't know.
You don't know how old you are?
I'm 29.
29. I'm the same thing on one side. We're done. Thank you very much. Go home.
Brothers are excused. They step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, an explosion of anger shakes a neighborhood.
You body Englishing her all the way back onto her property, screaming in her face. That's what I saw. Uncivilized behavior.
Judge Judy.
He wasn't like this prior to this.
The fact is, I needed help. Mr. DeFranco needed help.
He seemed normal, and he needed help.
Both of us together decided that we could help each other.
Mr. Baker is a sociopath. He is delusional, and he thinks people are stalking him.
I feel there are certain things that have been done to me by Mr. DeFranco that I was hoping to get out into the air.
He's very ill.
Some of the things include harassment, stalking. I got roses yesterday, actually, after getting out of the hospital.
Yeah, he's delusional. He really is.
But his main concern was that I was here.
So he can't contact me.
Actually, I do kind of miss my friend.
Basically, come anywhere near me. So
I was hoping that we could get past this, but apparently we can't.
Definitely separate ways.
I don't think there's any forgiving of this one.
He invited you to come over to his apartment for the purposes of recording some music.
An off-key moment set the tone.
You know, he's talking trash, saying this and that. He was at his door with knives telling me to get out of his house. I picked my stuff up, I turned my back, and he started swinging on me.
And it ended on a bad note.
So I put my stuff back in the car and went back to his door and said, bro, please, my laptop's gone. Just give it back, bro.
Where's his computer?
This is Judge Judy. Ricky Jones Jr. is suing his former friend, Travis Grisham, for the value of a laptop computer and punitive damages for an assault.
Judge, this is case number 137 on the calendar in the matter of Jones versus Grisham. Parties have been sworn in.
Mr. Jones, the defendant was a friend of yours, and in November of this year, according to your complaint, He invited you to come over to his apartment for the purposes of recording some music.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you do that as a...
I love music.
I mean, recording it. Do you do it as a living?
Recording? I mean, I'm self-made in the game, so I have all my own stuff, but I love to record myself, and if anybody would love help, I mean, I don't mind helping. Does that make sense?
So you have your own recording? No, not really. So I'll make it simple for myself. You know, my grandchildren try to keep it as simple as possible for me when we're dealing with things that I have no clue about. You don't have a regular studio where you record?
My studio is mobile, so, like, I don't have a place to...
You don't have a fixed place?
Yes, ma'am.
That you pay rent on?
Yes, ma'am.
So you have some of your own recording equipment. Did you purchase that recording equipment new?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just curious, what does equipment like that cost?
$8,000 to $10,000.
And when did you purchase it?
Around 2 months before this date has happened.
So sometime during the summer?
Yes.
Prior to that, what were you doing to record your music?
I was working very hard, saving my money, so I was able to afford the equipment that I was able to purchase.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was working in a warehouse, inventory control.
Do you live with family or do you have your own place?
Miss, I'm homeless.
Do you have a car?
Yes.
What kind of car?
I have a Mustang, 2003.
So all of your musical equipment fits in the Mustang?
And if it's not in my Mustang, it's at...
How long have you and your wife not lived together?
We've been on and off, but I have problems with my own family. And with her family doesn't really like me. So I'm kind of misunderstood.
And you don't live with your family?
No, ma'am.
Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am. I take very good care of my kids, too. And I have one on the way.
Well, then you must get together sometimes.
Oh, best believe we do. And everything's in the process. Nobody really knows what I'm doing, but it's a secret.
Not anymore. It is your claim that on this date in November, the defendant invited you over to his apartment for the purposes of doing some recording of music.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
also record music, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't have your own equipment?
No, ma'am. I don't.
Do you sing or play an instrument? What do you do?
I do both. I sing and I engineer.
And the equipment that you're talking about is not a guitar or a flute. It's
No, ma'am.
the engineering.
Engineering
it's
is
the
more
equipment
like...
that makes sound.
Basically, like, quality control, like sound. Like, basically, like, I fix
so
the
you
sound.
So you sing and you operate the dials?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you sing?
I
play
rap.
an instrument? What do you do?
I rap and...
So you sing. Well, that's singing.
Yeah, I do, and I'm learning. So the only thing I don't have down is the engineering part. I engineer, but I don't know how to mix and master yet. But I'm in the process of...
Before I will. The mixing and mastering.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Anyway, tell me what happened when you got to his apartment.
I got to his place, I put my studio equipment in there, and I noticed my computer wasn't there. So I had to go meet up with my wife to pick up the computer. We picked up the computer, showed back up to the house, and right before we was going to set up the studio, he was telling me we should record in the living room, and I told him the living room has too much of an echo and that I would like to record in a room or a room that has, you know, stable sound that's not going to echo and mess up the quality of the sound. He got an attitude. I don't know if he was hating on my equipment or if he was thinking I was trying to tell him what to do up in his place, which I wasn't. I just wanted the best for my studio. You know, he started arguing with me, started getting loud with me, started saying he's a great engineer, this and that, started calling people on his phones. And I'm like, it's not about that, bro. I just want to record in the room. You know, and then he started getting loud with me, and I told him, you know what, bro, I said, you're getting loud, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, like, get your stuff out this dude's house, because if not, it's going to be his equipment. So I went ahead, and I got my equipment. I told him, I'm going to come back another time and record with you. Picked my stuff up. I turned my back, and he started swinging on me. I fell to the floor with my equipment. It was a box full of stuff, and as he was swinging on me, I was trying to fight to get back up. I got back up. He ran to the kitchen and go grab knives. And in my mind, I'm just like, when he ran to the kitchen, I'm like, get your stuff out of his house. So I was pushing my box out of his house, and then I went back to get my two T5 speakers. And when I went back to go get my two T5 speakers, and as I was coming out, he had knives in his hands telling me to leave.
Slowly, look at me, slowly. I want you to start up again from, I went to go back inside to get my speakers. Very slowly. Right here.
I pushed my stuff out of his house, my big box.
I got you. Push the stuff out.
I went back to get my T5 speakers.
Push the stuff out of it.
To get him out, he was at his door with knives telling me to get out of his house. So, you know, I got my stuff's out of his house now. I go ahead and I'm putting my stuff...
Did you get the speakers?
Yeah, my speakers. I got my speakers. Yes, ma'am. And I got my box.
So you got your speakers. Shh, shh. So you went back and got the speakers.
Yes,
right?
as he was in the kitchen.
Okay, so you went back and got the speakers, and
I went ahead and I get my equipment. I take it to my car, and I'm upset. You know, I know everything's moving fast. So I noticed when I look at, my equipment, I'm like, my backpack's missing. My laptop's missing. So I go to his house and I knock on the door and said, bro, please. I didn't come at him with no aggression. I said, please just give me back my stuff, bro, so I could leave you alone. He's talking trash, saying this and that. And so he tells me, you want your stuff? Okay, fine. And he threw my backpack out of his back window or his back door or whatever, and he threw my camera. So he told me it was around the corner, so I went to go retrieve my items, and my backpack was there, my camera was there, but my laptop was missing. So I put my stuff back in the car and went back to his door and said, bro, please, my laptop's gone. Just give it back, bro. I'll give you whatever you want. And say, I'm going to call the cops, bro, because you're trespassing. So when he told me he's going to call the cops on me, I'm like, you going to call the cops on me, bro, and you got my stuff? So I went ahead and I went back to my car and I called the police on him. And the police had came, and they didn't really do much, but they wrote down the report, and I told the police I'm going to go ahead and sue him because he got my equipment, he's not giving it back. And then he told the police that his name was Kevin Mitchell.
Just a second. Do you have a police report, or did they just give you a card?
I have a copy of the police report.
Can I see a copy of the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Where's his computer?
I don't have it. He has his own computer, ma'am. He has all his equipment.
How much did you pay for the computer? Have the receipt?
Yes, ma'am. I paid about $2,089.
No, I don't want to see an about. I want the receipt for the computer. Did you seek medical treatment that night for anything?
No, ma'am.
Did you seek medical treatment at any other time?
No, ma'am.
Did you advise the police that the defendant had assaulted you, or just that he had your computer? Think about what I'm saying. You have the police report. Did you tell the police that he had your computer and refuses to return it?
Miss...
Just give me an answer. Look at the police report.
He's my childhood friend. I didn't put on the police report that he put his hands on me.
So I just asked you a question. You called the police. They arrived. You told the police about the computer, right?
Yes, ma'am.
There is nothing in the police report about an allegation of assault.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Because if he assaulted you, if you were afraid of him, coming back twice and knocking at his door would have been a little bit crazy if he was acting like a Looney Tune that night. Now, did you throw out his backpack?
Allegedly, they said...
Not allegedly. I don't want to hear allegedly. I want to know.
No, I didn't throw it. I didn't throw his backpack out. I sat it outside.
What did you do?
I sat his backpack outside with the rest of the equipment.
How did you explain to me how you sat it outside?
I went through my back door, and I sat his backpack and his camera right there. The only two bags that was in my house left. And then I closed my sliding door, and he kept banging on my door. And I told him, your stuff is on the side. He went and grabbed it. He went back to his car, and then he just started raging, talking about...
And he called just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
He went back to his car.
Yes.
He called the police. Yes, that's exactly what he did. And he said his problem wasn't that you had had a physical altercation or that you had his speakers.
Or anything
else. Or that
else.
you had... Except his computer.
That's what they say.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,089.97. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
This case is completed. Parties are excused.
On your way to success, people will hate,
It's a whole lot, but, it is what it is,
He had a knife, and it's cool because, God knows the truth.
Oh, I never pulled no knife.
He only lying to himself.
No punches that I know of.
Yeah, he was jealous of me, and it's fine because, honestly, I'm going to keep getting money, and I'm going to keep getting more.
I'm just going up. That's it.
I'm going to keep going.
And now, the next case.
All parties in the matter of Harris versus Penn. Step forward.
Devin Harris is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old Jasmine Penn, for the cost to rent a car and a loan for gas money and food.
Mr. Harris, Miss Penn was your girlfriend?
Yes.
And you lived together for a period of time?
Yes.
And you moved into her apartment?
Yes.
When did you move into her apartment?
I can't remember the exact date that I actually moved in.
Month. Let's start with easier. Let's start with year.
Oh, 2013.
Was it
hot? It was San Bernardino, so it was very hot. So trying to remember the date we actually moved in.
March.
See, I knew she would know.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why didn't you pay for rent?
I didn't pay any rent.
Why?
We didn't discuss payment for rent. I was supposed to help pay with the bills. Yeah.
Did you pay those?
No.
Devin Harris says ex-girlfriend Jasmine Penn owes for a rental car and a loan. Jasmine is countersuing for unpaid rent.
And when had you moved into the apartment?
I moved in February the 28th, 2013.
And you took the lease in your own name?
I did.
And then you met him and things moved quickly and you decided to move in with her?
Yes.
And it is your claim that you loaned her some money and also rented a car on your credit that she was supposed to pay for.
Yes.
She didn't.
Yes.
And in addition, she had a little fender bender in the car, all of which you became responsible for. And something about $1,600 that came out of your checking account. What was that for?
It was actually $1,500. That was for the car rental itself.
Okay. And she has fees that she had to incur for breaking her lease. Now, you broke the lease?
Yes,
because she couldn't afford to pay the rent?
Yes, Your Honor.
You should have thought of that before you signed the lease.
Well, he agreed to pay.
No, he didn't agree to pay for anything when you signed the lease. You signed the lease by yourself.
Yes, Your Honor.
He didn't move in for at least another month after that.
2.5 weeks to a month.
A month. So I assume that when you took that apartment, you had intended to get a roommate.
I tried to get a roommate towards
I
the
assume
end.
that that was your intention, to get a roommate, because you didn't have him when you rented the apartment. So it's not his fault that you broke the lease. It's your own fault you broke the lease. How many months did you live together?
2.5, 3 months.
Did you pay rent when you were there?
I didn't pay specifically to the rent. I pretty much paid household things. At the time, I had just recently bought a car, and we only had one car. We worked about an hour from our job, so my car and gas was paying for us to get back and forth to work. And I was paying for, food and things like that.
What other things like that?
Just everyday things you need to pay for stuff, just, groceries.
Why didn't you pay for rent?
I didn't pay any rent.
Why?
We didn't discuss payment for rent. I was supposed to help pay with the bills for, light bills, electric bills, and stuff like that. And that's the only thing I was supposed to pay for. No.
So she was going to pay the rent and you were going to pay the utilities.
Exactly.
And the gas to and from the car. That, that may work out. How much was the rent in total?
$800.
$800. Well, if he paid for the gas...
We were going to the same job.
It doesn't matter. You would have to get there. So, listen, even if I were to use your logic that he had to use his car to get to work anyway, and I was just tagging along, he can say to me, I was living in her apartment. She was going to pay the rent anyway. Why do I have to pay her?
He agreed to.
Just a second. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You broke the lease, and then you went and lived at his parents' house. You didn't say that. How come somebody left that out of the equation?
He asked me to.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Devin Harris says ex-girlfriend Jasmine Penn owes for a rental car and a loan. Jasmine is countersuing for unpaid rent.
Now, if you were supposed to pay the transportation and the utilities, and you tell me that you didn't pay the utilities because you have no proof that you paid the utilities, you at least owe her for the utilities.
Yeah.
For the 2.5 months you were living there, how much do you think that was?
I would say about paying the utilities, that I've given her money that covers the utilities that, sit
That's all he did throughout the whole relationship.
So you owe her for the utilities. Let's say it's $200.
Okay.
For the time that you lived there, and you did use your car back and forth for a part of that time.
Yeah.
But then she rented a car because you had different shifts, then your shifts changed. How many months did she use the rental car?
Between August to October.
Well, August to October, were you living together then?
She was actually living with me at my folks' house for that time.
Oh, you mean when the lease was broken?
She moved in with me into my folks' house, yeah.
Well, you didn't say that. How come somebody left that out of the equation? You broke the lease, and then you went and lived at his parents' house.
He asked me to. After we broke the lease, I was struggling. Me and my daughter, we had no place to go, and he's like, come, stay over here, and then
I
we'll
just would have liked the information. It's not the way you made it appear here. How much did you pay his mother for rent for you and your daughter?
She wasn't charging us anything.
That's not my question. How did you contribute for your support when you were living at his mother's house?
She just asked us to pay the utilities, and now
did you pay them?
Yes.
$400. For what months do you claim she owes you for personal expenses that you loaned her money for?
It was a time, actually, after our breakup. She actually drove the car for a couple weeks after we broke up, and then for about 2 months, she was kind of having issues, so I was pretty much helping her out with just gas and...
Who cares? You were helping her out. That's a nice thing for you to do.
Well, it was due to, she would say, like, I'll pay you the money back on Friday, I get paid, you know, things like that.
Then you should have stopped lending her money, if that's what you thought it was. Did you ever get together during that time?
No.
Okay. Now, let's talk about your car. Who should pay for your car?
He should.
Why?
Because he rented it. I was just an additional driver.
What? Speak up.
He rented it. I was just an additional driver.
Well, I understand that because you didn't have the credit to do it. That's why he rented it. Right. But he had his own car.
At the time, his car was in the shop.
Really? Was your car in the shop?
Yeah, my car was in the shop. I was driving another car that my family...
What other car?
I was using my grandmother's Lexus for that, at that time.
How long was your car in the shop?
A little bit over a month.
And how many months did you have the car?
About a month and a half.
How long did she have the car? You have the information.
Approximately from August 19th to October 25th.
That's more than a little over a month.
Well, I don't remember exactly.
You don't remember. I don't remember either one of you when I finish this case.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Closed captioning sponsored by... Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.
Now, you owe him for the rental car. You needed a car. You didn't have credit to get a car. He got you the car. Why didn't you pay for the car?
Well, I feel like still in turn he owed me for breaking the lease, rent, utilities, so I feel like it went both ways.
And what about you and your kid? Lived at his mother's house. You didn't pay for anything.
That was his grandma's choice. I mean,
well, it was your choice, too. It was your choice to rent an apartment that you couldn't pay for you and your daughter.
I could pay for it at the time, but when he moved in...
No. If you could pay for it at the time, then what prevented you from continuing to pay for it?
I'm having to pay the utilities, all the food.
Yeah, the utilities are the same, just like when he drives his car to work with you hanging on the door.
I was giving him gas for when we were going. We're going to the same exact place every day.
How much is the car?
How much was the rental car?
Oh, $15.10.70.
$15.10.70. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy.
You decided to put new flooring throughout the house.
But she was floored when they didn't return.
Who asked for the balance of the money?
Who?
What are you asking me for?
Judge Judy.
It's just my fault. I should have had something more in writing, and I should have just prepared myself a little bit more.
The money that I spent that's out of my account will be put back in my account, so I can't complain.
Especially when you're moving in too fast into relationships.
We did. I mean, sometimes that happens. You know, we moved it too fast, and then...
Should have never entered into a relationship where I pretty much didn't even know the guy.
Other things occurred, you know, working and just